Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Kyle, an above average engineer.
This is Nick, one of the finest bean counters you've ever seen.
And Brent, I have a master's and work at a zoo.
Nice, nice. And this is, if I may, episode 2. Let's go. First, I was thinking let's start with a little bit of life updates. For me personally, got my wife. I got my wife. My wife got a job in Colorado and accepted it, so we're all good to go there. For those who might not know, my company that I'm working for is transferring me over to Boulder, Colorado. So very excited, and wife has a job now, so definitely good news there. Thank you.
Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, if I may, isn't transferring usually a bad thing? Like when you have to transfer schools because you
that is a good
got
point.
bad grades?
No, this is a requested transfer. My wife and I, because she's a educator, during her spring break, we went out there to say hi and suck up a little bit and check out Boulder, and it was awesome. We went skiing
If I
and
may,
whatnot.
is this for the drugs? Is that the policy in Colorado? Is that
So,
what you
okay,
do with
fun
your life?
fact: my grandma, she's starting to get Alzheimer's a little bit. So this last weekend for Memorial Day, we all hung out and we're like, okay, the 10th time Grandma asks why we're moving out to Colorado, we're switching the story and just going straight for marijuana. So we did that, and it was fantastic. So like the 10th time, my grandma asked, so why are you guys going out there? We're like, oh, for the marijuana, Grandma.
There's drugs, so that's always good.
Yep, legalized drugs.
If I may, thank you, Kyle, for this weekend as well. My parents were very surprised to find out that in Washington, because moving to Seattle, that's also marijuana is legal, and they did not know that. And I actually couldn't get a good read on them, but I don't know.
Your
But
mother
thank you
was
for
genuinely
that.
surprised. I'm surprised she did not know. Yeah, Nick wasn't there, but we were hanging out at my parents' place, and yeah, Brent's parents were completely clueless of the fact that marijuana is also legal in Washington, where Brent is moving. They're like,
Which is
is it just Seattle? Nope, the entire state.
I think, and Oregon maybe too. I don't know.
That could make for some very interesting or boring podcasts, depending how you look at it, I guess.
Yes. So stay tuned in the future for Brent and Kyle doing legal things. Maybe.
It's just gonna be boring. It's gonna be bad.
I'll have to host, and you guys will just do whatever it
Brent,
is.
Nick will have to carry for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, congrats again on Colorado. It's gonna be really fun. Beautiful area.
Absolutely. In my life, I have some wedding planning going on, which is an adventure in and of itself. Certainly exciting thinking about all the things to come, but the logistics behind it are a bit of a pain, and I'm sure many people have gone through that and come out alive on the other side, so we will as well.
I lived, if I may, I lived through it.
Kyle,
I survived wedding planning 2016.
Kyle, may you share some tips you might have for Nick on his wedding planning experiences?
Yeah, if I may, do not let your mother send out save the date cards, because she will send them to everybody, including 12 coworkers. I'm like, Mom, you realize how much money 12 of your coworkers equals, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a pretty good lock on the situation, given that my not the core of my job by any means, but a lot of my job is working with data and working with spreadsheets. So I'm already having the discussions with Megan to work out the details and organize the information in a manner that can be quickly and easily,
You know how many beans you got, and you're not going to go over that many beans.
Exactly. So I'm working out those details and figuring it out. And when it's all said and done, I should have some pretty cool stuff that I can showcase as far as if there's ever any questions and how the data is organized. And spreadsheets are my thing. So as long as I can organize it in a manner that makes sense, and we can make sure that we communicate and figure out all the details, we'll be just fine. I'm actually not concerned at all about the wedding planning. It's more just the logistics of figuring out what the venues are, how many people are actually coming once we have accepted invites, how much food to provide on a per person basis. Do you,
et cetera.
buffet style or individual? Yeah, just all that good stuff. So that's been my recent obsession.
I feel like that could make a really interesting either business opportunity or blog or something. Accountant approaching wedding planning. It's a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah, you should blog about it for sure.
Because you have spreadsheets. I mean, people come in with spreadsheets, but just being able to really take a lot of the pure emotion that comes with wedding planning, taking that out of the equation and just going by the numbers.
I was going to say there's no emotion. There are only numbers. It's how many people are coming, what do they need, what do we want to provide, how much is it going to cost. I can do some pretty cool things with spreadsheets. So when this is all said and done, this damn thing's going to sparkle.
In this world, you're either a 1 or a 0. You're there, or you're not. 1 or a 0. That's all we are. Numbers.
Well, that's a little blunt, sir. If I may, each person's account string is consists of several digits. You may be a 1 in one category, certainly, but you'll be a 0 in another. It takes a lot of digits.
As long as you're a 1 where it counts.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Well, my life is just boxes and chaos and more boxes as we're packing up to move out next week to Seattle. I mean, I'm really excited to get out there, but this is probably the absolute worst part, as you'll find out soon, Kyle. The worst part of moving, that the boxes.
I've been
everywhere.
slowly buying plastic Tupperware from Walmart, the cheapest $4 and some cents bins I can find.
I mean, I close my eyes and I see boxes. It's just you can't get away from.
Are you buying boxes, or what are you doing?
Salvaging boxes?
So, a quick plug for a company that I know you're very familiar with, Nick, but the Home Depot. It gives out. I think you can buy boxes for pretty cheap. Someone else got them.
But if you buy boxes, you're making a mistake. When you go to Home Depot, you need to talk to the people who are in the receiving department. And every single day in the receiving department, the Home Depot associates take what I will describe as hundreds of boxes of new product and simply put them in a giant crushing machine. If you ask a receiving associate at the beginning of the day to collect a number of boxes and you stop by later, you can probably get a ton of different boxes of different sizes for free.
Yeah, you just need to find some sort of manufacturing plant nearby and ask them to hook you up.
You have to be sociable, and you have to, not try and impose too much as far as asking for specifics.
Give me your boxes.
I need
all
your boxes.
Perfect size.
Only refrigerator sized or bigger.
Right. So if you're not looking for specific sizes or granted needs, that you just need boxes in general, you can actually figure something out.
The specific box you should get is the clothes hanging box. That box is awesome. Have you seen that box?
I have. I don't like those.
What?
They're great for, but outside of that, I'd rather save the space and fold everything up.
I think those are so cool looking.
You get hung up, it is really cool, but for the sake of space management, you have a lot of space in that box that's not being utilized.
That's where the shoes go. All right, if I may, let's move on to one of our first topics here. I'll grab one of mine. Is the Raspberry Pi / Retro Pi. So I don't know if you just a quick background. A Raspberry Pi is like essentially a mini computer, and there's a ton of stuff you can do with them. One of my favorites at the moment is using a program called RetroPie to play retro video games off of the Raspberry Pi. So you can literally take this thing, and this is all very Googleable, but you can take the thing and on an 8 gigabyte micro SD card, you can put the entire Nintendo.
If I may, can you explain what the hell that is?
What the hell? What is?
What the SD5630, please?
A micro SD card. It's what you put in your phone for storage. Most people with a cell phone should know what a micro SD card is.
But the way you said it,
you have an iPhone, so it's understandable. You guys have to pay $300 extra for 2 gigs of storage.
iTunes Master Race, whatever.
So you get a micro SD card, 8 gig, and you can put the entire Nintendo Entertainment System library on it, the entire Super Nintendo library on it, and even the entire N64 library on it, plus you have 75% of the room left on it. So it is fantastic, and I've been having a lot of fun with that, playing some retro games. Currently I have it in a mini I have one in a mini setup where I can just you can buy them online for like $80. You can get the computer itself with a little case with all the cables and stuff you'll need to hook it up to your TV.
Top 3 retro games. Go.
Ooh, this is a good one for all of us. I would say Zelda. The original Zelda's got to be up there for the Nintendo. The N64 Mario Kart. That was always a fave. What do you guys got? You guys got anything?
Oh no, are we gonna do it one per system, like the 3 systems, or are we gonna do just top
anything?
3?
I think you do anything.
Anything.
If I may, Kyle, you only said 2, so
I did.
I need one more from you.
So if I may, I guess I'll go with on the Sega Genesis, the original, not the movie version, but the original Power Rangers game. I played the shit out of that game, and it's just like a fighting game, but it is super fun.
Nicely done. Mr. Brent, would you like to add your 3 favorite retro games?
I'd love to. I'm gonna do only 2 different consoles. I'm gonna start with the Nintendo, where I'd like to start off with Super Mario Bros. 3, one of the greatest Mario games.
That is a good one.
Of all time. I then would go with my personal favorite game, Tecmo Super Bowl.
Ooh,
Bo Jackson, Thurman Thomas.
Well, that is the
way that game.
If I may, I think you're referring to Super Tecmo.
Oh yeah.
Or no, is it
I think
Tecmo
it's
Bowl?
Tecmo Super Bowl.
It's Tecmo Super Bowl. You're right. The original is just Tecmo Bowl.
The remix or the sequel is better.
You have a lot more plays.
Yeah. And then for third, I'm gonna jump into the N64 and go with let's see, probably Super Smash Brothers or GoldenEye.
I don't know about that because I think the GameCube's Super Smash Brothers is better. Melee.
But it laid down all that track. You know, it was the foundation for one of the greatest fighting series of all time. So that's debatable. That is debatable. I'll probably go GoldenEye 64. There's just so many good memories with that game, and even though like when you play it now, it looks really tough. Like it's just hard to watch.
The controls are garbage compared to modern games.
Makes you feel sick. It just playing that growing up, you were James Bond and you had a golden gun, and it was just glorious. Even though Nick kicked my butt in it countless times.
I was gonna say a couple notes there. Number one, the GameCube, at least in my mind, not retro yet. If you're a little bit younger, maybe it is, or older, I guess, depends how you look at it. As far as GoldenEye, I would put that in my top 3 games for retro. And Brent, never fear. You were one of many in a long list of people who bragged and said they were the best at GoldenEye and they never lost. And I went to a school where video games and the ability to play them was highly touted. And I still stand undefeated, having gone to Michigan Tech playing GoldenEye on a regular basis. And it's not like there are too many women there to chase after, so a lot of us just played video games all the time. And many a competitor came to the table and said, "Oh yeah, GoldenEye, I never lose, or I'm the best in my hall." And I stand undefeated, let the record state. Not to say that I can't be beat. I'm sure that I could, and God, I haven't played it in forever. But for top 3 games,
practicing now.
I'll put
GoldenEye up there. I will put Mario Kart, or in recent years, it's become Beerio Kart, is always a classic. And then there are a lot of other good ones. But when I think retro gaming, I remember the first game I played when I got a Super Nintendo was as a child, and learning to play the Super Mario game there. I don't even know what the official name was. It was just the standard Super Mario that came with the Super Nintendo. And I can think through
Super
the first
Mario
levels. Yeah, how many times? No, but how many times I played those first couple levels, and I got really good at running through them. And as a kid, I don't think I ever actually beat it, which kind of frustrates me looking back, because I played it for so long and tried really hard. And you're a kid and you're not very good at it, and you learn little things here and there, and you grow up. And by the time I was able to beat the game, I had already moved on to other games. But I went back and and did beat it at one point and got a little satisfaction out of that. And I couldn't remember looking back where I had been hung up exactly, but I enjoyed going through that and kind of strolling down memory lane. But good topic. A lot of old games that we could tell probably a fair number of stories about.
I apologize. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Keep going.
Oh boy, laundry most likely. So when we're thinking retro gaming, would you say we could count computer gaming as well? Because I feel like the original StarCraft or Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Roller Coaster Tycoon are all games that could be retro in my mind and be up there with some of the classic Nintendo Sega games.
No doubt. I miss playing a lot of those. The Roller Coaster Tycoon was a hilarious game. You start out trying to, legitimately play it, and by the time you've played it for a while, you're building roller coasters yourself that purposely send people careening into the sky, and they all die. So that was quite the adventure. Age of Empires, and I was a huge fan of Age of Mythology when that came out, and I played that a lot. So no, I would say, yeah, those computer games that are old, you can absolutely, classify as retro. It's just how long it's been out there. But I think we should probably save the gaming topics and specifics related to that for a later podcast. With Kyle gone,
I'm back. If I may.
No. I would say.
I apologize. It was better than laundry, though. It was a 3D printer.
Oh, I thought it was like pizza rolls too. That could have been worth it. No, so I was thinking too, like how impactful this stuff was. You don't realize that video games can change your life. Like one of my favorite games, if not one of my favorite computer games growing up, was Zoo Tycoon, and I'm gonna be working at a zoo, so
Reaching.
1 + 1. Now I love that
Definitely
game.
worked out for you.
Have you ever played that game though, where you make this giant exhibit full of like African savanna? You have your gazelles and your zebras and your giraffes all living in peaceful harmony. And then it's time for the lions, and it's just African savanna time. Oh, so much fun.
I have never played Zoo Tycoon.
Yeah, no, never played that version.
Really? That's probably why you're not working at a zoo. No, we were just talking, Kyle, about if computer games could be counted as retro, or would you even say like PlayStation? Is that still part of the retro category now, or is that?
Because absolutely. Yeah. How many years ago does it equal retro? 10? Because if you
no,
start
it's gotta be more than 10.
I would say it has to be more than that, because the Xbox 360, its lifespan was what, like 15 years, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
it's still pretty modern. I have a hard time kind of drawing a line because it's so much of a personal bias. Growing up, it was like, well, what we're playing, Nintendo was retro, but then I'd even go up to N64 being retro, even though that's what we grew up with. But then GameCube, which was probably my glory years of like high school, middle school gaming kind of thing, I can't consider that retro yet, because I think part of me doesn't want to admit that, oh my gosh, I'm old, and the system that I sort of modernly grew up with is oh so old, even though I think it's well over a decade and a half now. Maybe it's old.
One game I totally forgot to mention: Pokemon.
Oh yes,
OG Red and Blue. Blue being better, Squirtle being the best starter.
Yellow, Pikachu.
I mean, yellow you get all 3 starters, so that's a little bit of a cheat there.
If I may, I feel like we could just do an episode on this video game.
That was
right.
My point.
I agree with what Nick was saying earlier. Honestly, like we could go down this rabbit hole all night, because I didn't play this when I was a kid, but Ocarina of Time, like I found that
Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina. Sorry, I apologize. I never played it growing up, so I didn't know. But that's another awesome game, and it's just like I haven't discovered till later. But it's really hard to definitively pick 3 of your top favorite retro games.
So that was talk about the Raspberry Pi and how you can use it to play retro games portably. What I was going for off of that is I have it as like its own standalone system kind of deal, but I'm now making the Raspberry Pi Zero W, which is like a wireless mini version, into a portable handheld, like smaller than a Game Boy SP, Game Boy Advanced SP. So very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly the tangent we went on. We hit that on the head.
15 minutes later.
Just down that rabbit hole.
Right?
I mean, we're getting there.
Yeah.
All right, so if we can jump to the next topic, just wanted to kind of jump into what's going on in the world around us. And right now we have some extreme heat. Ironically, last month we had some record snowfalls in April, and you're jumping from April where you got a storm that went through the Midwest, and a lot of areas dropped more than a foot and a half, and some areas even more than that, like 2 feet. And now you're sitting here a month later, roughly, and the temperature driving home from this last Memorial Day weekend hit 103 in the Twin Cities. So you're looking at this extreme heat and cold, and you can't help but scratch your head, and you're thinking global warming. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts? I guess I'll give my 2 cents first, if you don't mind. I look at the history of recorded history of weather, because obviously we can only compare what we've seen historically, and it seems to be getting more aggressive. It seems to be there's more variation in the weather. Historically, you look at the numbers, and sure, there are some spikes here and there, but in the last number of years, there seems to be more hurricanes, there seems to be more forest fires, there seems to be this. But then I guess the few times I've looked at the data that was provided, I don't take the time to go look this up myself. The numbers may not be that much more. It may actually be the news coverage, and then I'm kind of confused with respect to, okay, there are scientific facts and people, in Washington and other areas of the world who are pushing for things that are probably good for everybody, to limit all of the industrial effects to the environment and everything that goes with that. But what are your thoughts on, is global warming occurring? Is it directly affecting everything, or is it an evolutionary thing where the state of the planet doesn't remain the same for all that long and change is inevitable? I guess part of the train of thought that I had with this was driving home. I saw a billboard for a religious organization, and not to rip religion, but the billboard basically had the circle with a cross or like a slash through it, for like a do not enter type thing, that had a picture of like the evolutionary chain of monkeys to men kind of thing, and it said no, in the beginning God created, and then it said call 1-800 something 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 for truth. And I'm just sitting there shaking my head saying, okay, well, I don't believe in creation in that sense. I think, there may be a creation aspect, but to assume that evolution doesn't exist is kind of
if I may, I feel like we're getting onto a couple of different things here between evolution and global warming. And just to go to your global warming spot, as an environmental educator, this is one of the big things that we are taught and are encouraged to teach about and explain. And the big deal with it is, I think on average, maybe our temperature's only gone up maybe 1.5 or so degrees Fahrenheit, which you think isn't a lot. But if you think about it, that really is like, if we are in Wisconsin right now and we're used to cold winters, warm summers, that would be like we shifted up our weather patterns to be more like, say, Illinois. And eventually it's going to be, for Wisconsin itself, it's going to be like our weather patterns, our climate. So kind of a difference here. A lot of people in their arguments focus on weather. Weather is just like what's happening outside on that day. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get extremes like we had this weekend where it's going to be 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not necessarily global warming. That's just, it's really hot out. But it's what is that average, that climate is like. And when you think climate, you think of, well, you go up to Antarctica, it's always a freezing climate. Well, you go up to the tropics, like Caribbean, it's going to be a warm tropical climate. But what we're finding is that I'm going to throw out like 20 years, but there's obviously, this is a, if I may, factoid, but our climate is going to be shifting to be more like...
So not proven whatsoever.
No, it is proven. It's proven. It's proven. It's
just lack of source.
It's that I don't have my sources, and I wasn't prepared as Of course, why would I be? But is that the our climate is going to be more like in Arkansas or Tennessee, even like North Texas, within 20, 30, 50 years. So all of a sudden, these weather, like the winter weathers we have, we're finding is that it's just shifting everything. So species that like snowy owls that live up we see in Wisconsin in the wintertime because it's cold enough. Well, if we're not getting those cold winters because our climate is like the average of what our winters are, has gotten up to a point, those species are going to be pushed further north. I mean, when you think of all the advertisements they're doing, it's like the polar bears and how their ice is melting. Well, that's what's happening here is that with our global temperatures going up, that we're pushing everything farther north. And for some species that rely on colder climates that they had for thousands of years, that might not exist.
So if I may, I'd like to play devil's advocate here, and please note that these don't reflect my personal beliefs in any way, shape, or form. But in the name of playing devil's advocate, when you look at the history of the Earth, we can acknowledge that we know of, based on the geography of the planet, of ice ages having historically occurred. And before the ice ages, or at least one ice age, the dinosaurs ruled the planet. We have science behind that, and I think we can, as reasonable individuals, know that at one point dinosaurs were the dominant species on the planet. Something happened. There's a lot of speculation and scientific hypotheses with respect to what changed. The meteor hitting the planet, putting a ton of dust and whatever dirt, whatever into the atmosphere and blocking out the sun and essentially sending the planet into an ice age is one of the prominent theories. But my point in this with respect to the global warming is, if you take the emotion out of it and trying to save these beautiful creatures who are alive and vibrant and thriving in one area, is the dinosaurs were wiped out naturally by the planet. It was a form of evolution. The creatures that survived and then learned to thrive. So how is it? And
if I may, there's piping in here. There's a couple things at play here. Number one, yes, the Earth's climate does change itself over time. I think ice ages happen because every couple thousand years or something like that, or tens of thousands of years, the magnetic north and south pole do flip. And actually, if you look online, you can see there's people that graph out where magnetic north is, which isn't directly on top of the planet as it would be for like a globe, but it's slightly off. In the Midwest, we're actually kind of lucky where it's in line with north, so when we use a compass, we can use it naturally and don't have to care too much. But in other parts of the world, you actually have to correct for that. So but that does wander over time, and if you look online, there's charts of where it is on the planet, and it moves, and you can see it moving, and eventually they will flip, and that does typically trigger an ice age. So with the dinosaurs, with the prominent theory being the asteroid, the reason that happened, or obviously an asteroid hit the Earth, but the reason that it killed off the dinosaurs is because the asteroid put a huge amount of particles into the atmosphere, which then blocked out the sun, acting as essentially a greenhouse, heating the Earth immensely, and then therefore causing a ton of essentially doing a global warming to the extreme very, very quickly, which animals aren't able to adapt to. And that's why the majority of all the dinosaurs died off, with the exception of a couple little lizards here and there, which are surviving today. The other thing is, back then, the oxygen levels in the atmosphere were way higher, so that's why animals could grow to be such a big size, because the oxygen percentage in the air was much higher. Right now it's 20-30%, something like that. Back then it was like 60-70. So we could not live, like if we just teleported back in time to the dinosaur time, we wouldn't be having a good time, because the human body isn't evolved to survive in that kind of environment.
And Nick, to go on farther with that point, the reason that this thing is happening, this global warming, this extinction that's going on right now, is such a big deal, is that dinosaurs, when they died, it was natural. It was a natural thing. This extinction rate, which has happened probably in the last 100 200, 300 years. This is caused by human activity. It's
Yeah, so
to put an analogy, if I may, just a quick analogy. Think about it like this. So we use fossil fuels as a way to get around, plastics. We're releasing these harmful chemicals in the air. They're helping us get along, right? It's kind of like if you're cleaning. When you're cleaning, they say you can use bleach to clean out, but then you can also clean stuff with ammonia. And if you have the brilliant idea, I could be more effective if I take these two cleaning chemicals and combine them together, and I get this super cleaning formula. But that reaction, bleach and ammonia, mix them together, that causes chlorine gas, which is harmful to us. But at the same time, here we are cleaning and getting a super clean kitchen, but we're killing ourselves while doing it. That's kind of what the big deal about this global warming and these extinction events is happening.
So it's not the fact that there is change, it's the rate of change.
It's human.
Yeah. So
I agree entirely. But if I may, again, playing devil's advocate, not my personal beliefs, but does mankind have the hubris to say that we are above evolution? We are above natural selection. We are above those processes. The thought being that, okay, if mankind is doing something like this where it's self-destructive, hypothetically, and again, taking all emotion out of it, taking all humanity, if you will, out of it, looking purely at the...
If I may, that's what would happen, is if we keep going down this path, we will be taking all of humanity out of it.
Oh, no, I agree. But is it right? Is it wrong? Is mankind good for the universe? Again, complete devil's advocate, just kind of asking those questions and what's controlling, and is what's happening on the planet. It's what defines natural. If the dinosaurs took over, and as they took over, all the big dinosaurs ate the little dinosaurs, and there weren't any more little dinosaurs. Is there some sort of pity party for the little dinosaurs, or is it just kind of like, well, now the big dinosaurs are start to die out, and the ones who are smaller, who need less to live, can figure it out? I mean, I'm just looking at the changing of the environment. I know it's man-made. I know it's all of that, but in the end, the world keeps turning. In the end, it all keeps happening, and you can go in bigger theories with respect to leaving the planet or finding other inhabitable areas, and you can go into the matrix discussion with respect to humanity as a plague, humanity as a virus. Interesting stuff, way beyond my initial intent of the global warming discussion, but I do like hearing the different angles and the different views on that. So thank you for your educational points there with your masters and all your knowledge of the zoo and all the teaching you've done for kids. I know it's been pretty extensive, so good to hear. Thank you.
No, and I would say that it's one of those things where the world will keep turning. I mean, we're going to be putting the world back upwards of millions of years for all we know in terms of evolutionary progress that it may or may not have made, depending on if you think of humans as evolutionary really high. But I mean, the world will keep spinning, and eventually it will find itself back to kind of a balance, but we're just not going to be part of that. And I think that's where a lot of the concern comes from, is the actions that we have are literally opposite of what we would do to survive. And I feel like we talked to this one pretty good, but you think this hot talk and with all this extreme cold, this extreme heat that's coming out, especially from this weekend, and it made me think of kind of something that I was doing with the weather, and that was I got a haircut.
I need one so bad.
Having a whole mug of hair, like I was just floppy, and getting that gone has lightened me. It's made me faster, but it's also made me much cooler. And I don't know.
Temperature-wise, clearly, if I may.
Oh, both. Just in everything. Just in life. I wore a sweatband still today, so I wear a sweatband to track practice, and it doesn't work as well with short hair. That's one of the downsides. So
I myself have been lucky in the sense that I have a pretty good head of hair. My dad has a good head of hair. My grandfather on my dad's side had a great head of hair all the way up until he passed away. At what point do you shave your head if you don't have that?
I gotta say, you gotta just gotta go with it until it
As
goes
as a
all
man as a man who has slightly thinning hair on the top of his head,
slightly.
my shut up. Actually, no. My grandfather on my mother's side, which is allegedly where the hair comes from, did have hair until the day he died, and it wasn't some crazy comb over job or anything. It was thin, but it was clearly on the top of his head. My personal thought is, as it thins out, if it thins out beyond a certain point, and I feel like I have a pretty good gauge of it, I'm just going to shave my head entirely. I don't think bald looks bad. I have blonde hair to begin with, so it's thin, it's blonde. You can see my head through short hair, which is how I kept it historically anyway. I think the last time I had long hair was, gosh, in elementary school, maybe middle school. My mother liked it that way. I never did. And then as soon as I committed to being an athlete in high school, I absolutely just did the athlete look where I buzzed it, and the maintenance is so fantastic. And I've always liked my hair that way. So
if I may, I have the problem where I'll let myself get like little, quote unquote hair Tourette's, where like my hair's poking myself in the eye and I have to like twitch my head out of the way until I have to cut my hair, and that's bad. I need to cut my hair now before I get to that point.
The thing that gets me with haircuts though is I just absolutely hate them. So you go to this haircut place, whether it's a barber shop or I usually just go to like a Great Clips, which could be my problem. But you go in, it's a stranger, you don't know. They ask you, what do you want? How many inches do you want taken off? I don't care how many inches of hair. Like I don't know how long my hair is to begin with.
You know what I do?
I want 4 inches off.
I say number 3 on the sides and as short as you can with your hands up top. Faster's better, and I'll tip you good.
Yeah, and then they try talking to you.
If I may, how much did you pay for this Great Clips haircut?
It was $15 with the tip. But this man, while doing it, first off, is like, I have small fingers. Who says they have small fingers? Who admits to that? First off. And then second, why are you telling me you have small fingers? I don't care what size.
The best haircut I ever got was definitely from a place called The Barber Shop.
I was going to say, if I may, Brent, you need to be going to The Barber Shop.
Yes, that is the way to go. The Barber Shop is the only place to go, and the best haircut I ever had was there, and she actually used like a straight razor, like a straight up razor to cut the top of my hair, and it was awesome. It felt really weird.
At the barber shop, they also give you a massage afterward, as well as a hot towel while you get your hair washed, and it's $15.
Yep, and I hand them a 20.
That's the thing. So the reason why I'm
hand them a 20, it covers the tip.
The thing that I'm like got me all up in arms about this was like, I get a haircut. My last haircut I got before this one was in Madison, and I asked for the same simple haircut. I want a 4 on the sides, blended on top. I don't actually really care what they do with it. I don't really know the difference. I just want them to do it. That's all I want them to do, and it's the simplest haircut I feel like you could ever ask for.
What you need is
and then they charge you $20. No. It's you take your finger and you cut a couple times. It can't be that hard. And
blending is not easy.
Blending is a lot more difficult. I mean, when I was super young, my dad would just give us buzz cuts. You just put on the number 2 and just it's all gone.
I'm number 3 typically myself, but I can respect a number 2.
Oh yeah, we just went short.
But it's like I don't want to like why for a simple haircut, like if it's something fancy like you get me in a perm or something, like yeah, like charge me $20.
If I may, you've had a perm before?
No, I'm just saying if it was a perm. Okay, I obviously have not had one. I don't have long enough hair. I'm just saying like $20 for a straight up haircut before the tip, like for basic. I'm not asking to make me look like Gordon Hayward or someone or Kevin Love. Just give me like a common everyday man, quick, don't talk to me. Just
I want enough hair where I can put product in it if I want, but not have to in the morning.
No, never product. Goodness. Ugh. It grinds my gears. I hate haircuts. They're just such a waste of money.
Peter Griffin, everybody.
Brent, for $5, I will do your next haircut. I promise nothing for quality, but it'll cost you $5.
No, I don't even want $5. I don't have my wife do
clippers. Just have to get the back of the neck. Megan actually stabbed me the first 2 times she tried to help me, just cleaning up the back of my neck. She didn't know what she was doing with the clippers, and she bit me pretty good with the clippers.
It can't be that hard. It can't be that hard. I don't know.
All right.
Whatever. Just a forewarning. We would never on the show promote anything illegal, and we would not talk about it. Just to preface whatever you're going to talk about, Kyle.
Well, I was going to talk
If
about.
I may, when did we agree to that?
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying. I don't want to like have the feds knocking or anything like that.
Yeah. As I was going to go into, if I may, a potential closing segment here of maybe a TV series we'd like to binge this week.
Ready? I feel like the time is flying. I have one that I've been watching recently, and I have to recommend. It's called The Good Place. It's a sitcom. I'm not going to spoil too much, but it kind of imagines a sitcom in the afterlife, and the humor that they use in there kind of twists around and is absurd in ways that is just every little bit's funny. The dialogue's great. The actors all fill their roles really well. The Good Place. That's my recommendation for the week.
If I may, I'd like to jump into mine, which is Rick and Morty. Obviously, it's been out for a little bit since I think 2014. I've heard of it. I watched an episode with a buddy once, and we were like building his 3D printer while we were doing it. So like it was funny, but I wasn't really paying attention. This weekend / this last week, I watched one episode and then another, and now I'm done with all 3 seasons that are available. So I am ready for season 4. Good episode, great TV show in my opinion. The first episode, especially in the first couple, it's one of those. I don't know if it's just that you have to get the comedy a little bit, or you just have to kind of get into it and understand the characters. I think it also gets a little better after the first couple, but definitely a good show. I ended up watching all 3 seasons that are available, and they're short 20-minute episodes, and there's only like 31 or so episodes total available, like 10 or 11 per season. So definitely a good one to binge watch if you got some time.
Yeah, if I may,
Nice
there are a lot of different TV shows that I would recommend to binge watch. But if you're going to binge watch something, in my mind, you want the closure. You want it to be finished. So, ongoing series I would try and avoid. If, for example, your Game of Thrones last series hasn't come out yet, the last season, excuse me. We have, I guess, Spartacus is one that's finished, but that's a unique taste if you like the blood, guts, gore, and sex and everything that goes with a series like that.
A few of my favorite things.
I'm gonna go non-conventional, actually. And although it's not finished, it's a very different type of show. For those of you,
if I may, I'm going to talk all about how you should binge watch shows that are finished, and then promote a show that's not finished. Go ahead.
Continue.
Anyway, moving on. If you're a fan of Breaking Bad, which does have a finish, and I would recommend binge watching, thank you very much. An offshoot show of Breaking Bad was Better Call Saul, currently available on Netflix, season 1 through 3, I believe. And Better Call Saul was a surprising show, kind of a throwback to a very non-typical style of TV show. A lot of detail, a lot of really good what's the scoring? Is that the music and the
musical
noise
score
in the background? The score for that TV show alone was cool, not because it's super elegant or classic or crazy beat bopping, but just how well it's done. The actors, I thought, did a fantastic job. If you liked Breaking Bad and you liked some of the characters involved there, highly recommend checking out Better Call Saul. It's a little bit slow to start, as with most good shows, but the storyline and how the depth of the characters, it really isn't matched anywhere that I'm seeing in television today. So that was one that was on AMC when it initially came out, and I think I watched season 1 and 2, and I was able to watch season 3 recently on Netflix, and I think that's a pretty cool show to check out at some point if you're looking for an adventure that's a little atypical.
If I may, for Breaking Bad, I don't know how it happened, but I don't know how many seasons there are. Let's say there's 10 seasons. I'm not sure. But I finished like season 7 or something like that, where the uncle or the brother or whatever found the book in the back of the toilet.
Give a spoiler alert.
No, I'm not gonna spoil anything. But the uncle found a book in the back of the toilet seat, and he looked at it, and he got like a big revelation about who the big bad guy is. And I thought that was the end of the show. Apparently, there's like 2 more seasons after that, and I don't know how, but I thought that was the end, and I stopped watching it. And now I realize there's like 2 more seasons I need to watch, and I haven't watched them yet. But Better Call Saul, I've heard of it. I've heard it's pretty good. I might have to check that out after I finish off Breaking Bad.
I loved it. It was very well done. The character depth and development, the stories that are going on, it was cool.
All right. Well, that was episode 2 of If I May. I hope everybody enjoyed. We'll definitely be coming out with a new podcast every Thursday. So right now, you can really only find us on Anchor, the app. It's a podcast app, and YouTube. But we'll shortly be on iTunes and Google Play once we figure out how that works. And
if I may, we also have a Twitter as well. So you can follow us at zarubust. Check it out.
Who got us a Twitter? Oh my god.
Oh, we had a Twitter for like a year. It's almost our
university. Flipping twit.
No, it's worth it. It's gonna.
Okay, well, follow Brent there anyway.
No, it's
Brent will be twitting for Zarubust.
It's all of us. Follow all of us.
See you guys next time.
All right, bye.